So I've got the rest of the interior taken out of the trunk. I've set up the tanks and the compressors and a little bit of a mock-up to see how this is all going to fit in the trunk. I wasn't sure of the size of everything, just based on pictures. It looked a lot smaller than what it really was, but we got it set in here a little bit lower than what it's going to be. It's actually going to be probably 6 to 8 inches higher off the floor than that. And then I started mocking up where I want my tubes to be with some stainless steel TIG wire that I had over on my cart. So I've pretty much got the design figured out. Me and the owner of the car went at it yesterday and came up with some ideas. We got a cross member that mounts to where the old seat mounted, and then it houses the connection for the tubes that then run to the back of the car. So basically it's going to be this cradle or cage that runs up under the tanks and the compressors and holds them up off the ground at an angle. And you're going to have tubes running down the side of this trunk and tying into the floor here. The first order of business is getting that cross member made to where the seat mounts, and then we'll go from there on bending the other tubes. So the first thing is to clean out this trunk and put all this stuff back in their boxes, because I like to break shit. And we don't want any of this stuff broken. So the first order of business is getting this cross member built. So right here, I'm gonna cut 2 pieces of tube here that have a bolt running through them. I'm gonna weld on a cap on the end so that you can have basically a washer that holds it to the car. And then we'll bend up this tube and get that guy set in place. Once that's set in place, I can start bending these vertical tubes and then getting them fish mouthed and then tack welded into place. The tricky part on this car is where I'm gonna mount it here in the trunk. I might be using some nut certs and some plates, or just welding it straight to the floor. I would like all this to be removable, so what I may do is to go ahead and make a plate that goes along the bottom of the tube, and then some nut certs that go down into the frame or the body, or rev nuts, whatever you guys want to call them, and use that to mount it down. It's really not a structural component here, it's more just for the air system and for a visual. So let's start cutting some tube. I think I need a new hole saw. All right, I got David in the car, taking stuff out of the way. I cut 2 5-inch pieces of tube. I'm gonna get the end plates cut out of the steel, weld it all up. We'll mount these in place, and then we'll start bending this tube to fit in the back bar where we want it, and go from there. I need a hole saw. So I got David cutting out the end plates for the tubes, and then it'll get on the tube and we'll weld it, and then it'll be good to mount in the car. So you get to watch David. By the way, David. Put that back, please. All right, so David and I made these 2 pieces. They're going to be the end of our bar that goes across here. We got the bolt to come through the ends of our bar here, and we're going to mount those where the old seat used to mount. Put this guy in here, get it threaded, and then we'll measure for the new bar that we're going to bend to be the cross member. Hopefully get this right. I need the short 12. All right, we got our tube ends. They're mounted. And we're gonna have the bar come across the back here and then go down at like a 45-degree angle. Yeah, 45-degree angle is good. So first thing I'm gonna do is measure my width here. About where we want the bar. 40 and a half is our bar length. Now, we get to figure this out. All right, so David and I bent this up. Hopefully the measurements are right. This guy's gonna sit on top of these two bars we made, just like that. I think we prepped the ends of the bar all right. So now I'm gonna get this angled how I want it. I think we're gonna lean it back like this for the pipes to weld into. And what I'm gonna do now is get this thing even on both sides, tack weld it into place. So he's gonna grab the welder. I'm gonna grab a welding jacket and put it over this interior. Tack weld this in place, pull the whole thing out, final weld it on the bench, final TIG welded on the bench, and start working on the next pieces. So we're gonna get the welder. So we've got this bar made. It fits pretty well. The only thing I have left to do is to notch out the bottom and then cut the other side to an angle to where it can mount on the plate where it mounts the chassis. I'm gonna use rivet nuts into the chassis to get that to bolt down. It's just the easiest way for me to go about doing that instead of trying to find a spot to weld it to the chassis. I also want this to be able to be removable. With that being said, I took some scrap bar that I had laying around, a 45 here, a 90, and then there's another bar right here with a 90 on the far end. And what that allowed me to do was go through here and measure how long I wanted these pieces to be, cut them, set this on there, make sure it was clocked correctly, tack weld it, and just kind of piece this together with basically little building blocks. After I did that, I figured out all my angles and clocks and everything with my protractor and an angle finder and went from there. Now that I've got this done, I need to take this cross member and put a disconnect in it. This is a piece that you can buy from off-road like fabrication companies. And what it is a point to where you can take a bar out for like a door bar or a transmission cross member. It's a really nice thing. It slides in the inner opening of the tube. You weld it around the outside. You didn't have two bolts to take it out. I need that because this needs to come back out of the car for powder coating. It's not really a roll cage. It's just going to hold all the air ride suspension. So let's get this bar notched and fitted, and then we'll put this to the side and grab another piece of bar and go ahead and start doing our other side. And then once we have that figured out to where these bars are going to land on this cross member, we can figure out where we want to put these guys. I'm going to put two on the bar. That way it can just come out as a whole. Yeah, let's get started. All right, we got our tube set up here. Got everything set at 0. We're going to take the slack out and reset this and get our 45-degree measure mark. Figure out our angle that we need to twist the bar clockwise, counterclockwise to get it clocked correctly, and then just move on from there. And then after we get that going, we'll set it in the car, cut to fit the notch, and move on from there with the cross members. So we got the other bar made. What I did is I set the bar from the bar that I already made down on this jig, and after I completed the bend, I would move to the next bend and basically just mock up the old tube like it was set up in the tube bender, and then I would measure the angle that the old bar had moved, whether it be up or down, and then do the opposite on the other bar. So we're gonna set this in the car now and then figure out exactly where we need to make our cut on this front bar and then cut it for its notch. And then probably go ahead and take that cross member, mark it where we want to put in those disconnects, and then take that bar, cut those disconnects, weld it together, and then continue to build the cage. So let's go get this guy set in the car. Okay. So I pre-cut the bottom of the front side at a 20-degree angle to match the other side. I figured it'd be close enough for now, and I can trim it up later if I need to. This guy set in here. What I'll do is I'll clamp this guy in place up here on the front and then make my mark after I get these bars level here. The bend to back a bar, 3/3/8, and this guy's sitting just about there as well. I think I need to move it over an 1/8. So that's where these guys will live. I'm gonna go ahead and mark the bar for these disconnects, pull this center bar back out, cut these disconnects, weld them in, and then we'll move on to getting these next middle bars. Middle bars going. Let's see where this guy's going. Okay, what you see over here is the fit up of the right tube, and then what you see over here to the right is the disconnect that I installed. So what this does, this guy here and this disconnect here allows me to take this entire center section out. If I didn't do that, then I would be relying on this side and that side to be unbolted and pull it out. The main goal here is to get this system unbolted and slid out. So right now I have the right side over there fitted up pretty nice. The left side needs some cleaning up and just a little bit of a bevel put into it, and then it'll be ready to be tack welded. I'll make sure those guys are the same distance from the center line so it's even. Make sure the tubes are plumb or level, and then go from there. So I've got the base plates tacked in here. I just made a little 3" by 4" plate, put a hole in it, and that's going to be where my rev nut lives. The biggest thing I got is like a 1/4" by 20, so I'll pick up some bolts to go in there later. But for now, this gets me what I need. So we're going to take that, keep those there, and then we're going to start making this middle bar. The middle bar is basically just going to live right here in the center. It'll come off the ground, and then it'll be turned at like a 30-degree angle. And then what that'll do is shoot up here to this side member. And then what I'll do is I'll have another bar just come straight from here and then notch it to accept that bar right there in the middle. So we'll get this guy bent up. I've already taken a measurement. It's going to be 48 inches. And then at about 23 inches, we will go ahead and start making that bend. There's our notch. Should work for what we're doing. I'm gonna go ahead and deburr this guy, go put it on the tube bender, and then get the about a 70-degree bend going. be. Yeah. All right, so we are at 30 degrees down. My notch has turned down now, so when I go ahead and bend it and everything and I turn it back, then once that notch, looks like it makes sense. All right, that should be good for now. Actually looking pretty good. I'll take a couple of measurements just to double check everything. And then once I put in this other bar, I'll make sure we get this guy square. So I'm gonna grab the tape measure, take a few measurements, and after I get that done, I'll start cutting this next bar. So before I finish putting these last two pieces in, I wanted to recap what I've done. I've gotten the cross member made, I put in disconnects, got the side tubes, and then ran this center bar. Right now, I don't have this tack welded into place. I'm about to do that in a second. I just wanted to make sure I got all my fit up right. What I did here in the middle is I put a bar that had a 90 on it, and I notched it and made it accept this tube nice and neat. Before I made this 90 intersect right here, I had a straight piece that I notched and fit, and I really didn't like the look. It looks okay, but it wasn't clean. It didn't match the look of the whole cage that we have in here. So what I did is I notched this guy and fit it up pretty good. It's about to be tack welded. I think I have a little bit more fitment to do on the side over here, but for now this looks good. We're gonna tack weld this into place and then we'll pull everything out and final weld it. But we're gonna go ahead and get these sidebars done. So we got these other two pieces fitted up. They're pretty good, they're not too bad, but I'm gonna go and start welding this frame together up on the table, and then after I get the frame welded all the way around on all pieces, then I'll put these guys in last. So we're gonna throw this up on the table, we're gonna get it clamped down, start welding all these pipes in one by one, and then put these guys in and put it back in the car, and then we will figure out how we're gonna mount all the equipment.